Hello everybody, welcome back to this playlist where we talk about Python and how do we use it. So if you're new to this channel, then I would recommend you to go and watch this video first where we talk about how to install Python in your system and the basics of it. Alright, so in this video, we are going to talk about strings and how do we operate with them in Python. So what are the different functions that we can use to manipulate strings, get various things out of it, and so on and so forth, right? So without further ado, let's quickly go to our system and let's open Jupyter Notebook. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new notebook in Python and I'll call that strings. Okay. So if you remember from the previous video, strings was a data type in Python and it is nothing but a sequence of characters enclosed between double colon, right? So let's start off with a very simple string. So st, let's say I'm writing down my name and this is a string in Python. Now, the first thing you'll need to know in Python is what is the length of a string, right? So a length of a string is basically how many characters are there, including the space in this particular case, okay? That's also a character inside that string. So it's basically going to count the number of characters in that particular string, and you find that using len of the string name, whatever it might be. So if you can see, if I print len of st, and if I run this, you'll see that it prints 16, and let's go for a quick count to verify this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So this string indeed has 16 characters in it, right? Now, another thing that Python does is it has an index for every character in it, starting from 0 all the way till length -1, right? So in this case, this first s in this character in the string is going to be indexed with 0. And the way you see that is st square brackets 0, right? So if I print this, you'll see that it prints capital S, right? That is the first character, okay? You could also go for, let's go with some random st of, let's say, it's 16, right? So 15 is going to be the last character, right? And if I run this, you can see that it prints E. But what happens if I actually input something that's outside the range of this string, okay? So if I print something like 16, even though the length is 16, let's see what happens if we enter 16. You'll see that string index is out of range because the range for this particular string is basically from 0 all the way till 15. So if you enter anything outside 16, it's going to give you this particular error which says that string index is out of range. So let's remove this, and I don't want this right error here. Anyways, okay. So another way you can access the last character of a string, Python is pretty smart. So what you can do is you can enter -1, right? So -1 basically gives you the last character of your string, okay? In this case, it's E. You can also go with -2. And if I run this, it's also going to give me E, obviously, because I have 2 E's at the end of my name, and so on and so forth, right? So -1 is the last, -2 is the second last, -3 is the third last, and so on and so forth, right? So instead of basically figuring out what the length of the string is, if you just want to access the last or the second last character of a string, you can go with -1 and -2. Okay. The next thing we can do is we can pick out a particular subset of the string, okay? Or we can take out a substring from our original string. And how do we do that? For that, let's say I want to pick out the first 3 characters of my string. So starting with 0 all the way till 4, right? So whenever I write something like this, okay, st0:4, it basically means you pick out the characters 0, 1, 2, and 3. So whatever is your end range, okay, in this case it's 4, Python will access till the end -1, okay? So I'll just write down it in yeah. So in this particular case, if I run this, you'll see that you get 0, 1, 2, and 3. So that's S, H, R, and E, all right? That's the idea. So this picks out a substring. It doesn't even have to start from 0. You can access it from anywhere. So if I enter, let's say, 1 all the way till 6, it'll start from the second one, and you'll see that it starts with H, R, E, Y, and A, okay? That's the idea. So you can pick out substrings from your string using this command. You can also skip a certain character in this, okay? Let's say I want to go from 0 all the way to, let's say, the end of the string, but I want to skip every second one, okay? So what we do for that is we write down 0, colon the length. So in this case, it's going to be 16. Why? Because when I write 16, it will access it till 15, okay? It won't go all the way to 16, so you won't get an error in this case. So if you write this, :2, this basically tells me that after every character you access, you add +2 and then access the next one, which is indirectly saying that you're going to skip every second character, right? So if I run this, you'll see that it turns out to be S, then it skips H, you get R, then it skips E, then you get Y, then you skip, You get the idea, right? So it skips every second character in this case. So you get this weird thing as an output. All right. Another thing you can do is you can find out whether a certain character occurs in a string or not. And not just a character, okay? It could be a subset of your string as well. So let's go with that. So st.find, let's say I want to find whether EE occurs in this or not. So for that, if I run this, you'll see it's 14. So what is the point of this 14? So this has an output type of integer, okay? And this function find basically returns the first index where it finds this EE, okay? So in this particular case, because it's 14, 15, right? The last one was 15, the second last is 14. So on the 14th index, you start off with the substring EE, right? So that's what you get, okay? So you could also go with, let's say, st.find. Let's go with something like SHR. So this starts from the first position itself. So the output should be 0. We know that. And let's see whether it actually gives us 0. It gives us 0, right? So you can find out substrings from it. But what happens if it's not actually present? Let's see. Okay. So for example, SH is present, but SE is not present in this, right? So if I try to find SE, let's see what output do I get. It gives you -1. That's the default output whenever you don't get it, okay? Cool. So this is the find function. After this, what you can do is you can also capitalize it, okay? You can capitalize a string, okay? For example, let's go with st1 equal to, let's say, SHREYAM, and let's go with st1 dot capitalize. So if I run this, what happens is you'll get the first letter in the capital form, right? So it automatically does this, okay? Another thing you can do is you can replace it, okay? So if I replace, let's say you were typing something and there was a typo at some point, right? Let's say I wrote my name wrong. Bad thing to do, but anyways, if you do that, let's say I write my name wrong, and instead of SHRE, I go with CHREYAM. That's obviously not my name. So what I can do is I can find the C and replace it with something else, okay? So I could go with let's print it directly. So I could go with st.replace, and I want to replace the C with capital S. And if I run this, let's see what happens. So I replace the C with capital S, but you need to be careful. This is going to happen with every C that might have been present in this, okay? Let's say if the last character is also C by mistake over here. Let's see what happens. So it's going to replace both the C's in your string with capital S, okay? So if you made a typo by mistake and there are multiple instances of that character occurring, you can't really use this replace, okay? Cool. All right, so this takes care of strings for us. These are mostly the functions that you use to play around with strings, all right? And yeah, in the next video, we're going to talk about lists and tuples in Python. So if you want to learn more, stay tuned and do let us know if you like this video in the comments.